So let's solve by factoring. And so in this case, we notice that our a value is not 1. And so remember that we're going to use what's called the reverse box method. So the top is always a times c. So 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6. And then the bottom is b, is our b value, which is 5. So it multiplies to negative 6, that adds to 5. So negative 6, we can think of, well, 6, that's 1 times 6. And that's also 2 times 3. And so they're opposite signs, so we know we're going to subtract. And so in this case, we're going to use 1 times 6. 1 times 6. Now, one of them has to be negative. We have a positive 5 down here. So therefore, we need to have the 1 as a negative. Now, to double check, just look. Negative 1 times 6 is a negative 6. Negative 1 plus 5 is negative 1 plus 6 is a positive 5. So now, notice I already have the x here, or the box. So we're going to go reverse. We're going to fill it in from the inside and find our factors on the outside. So in this first box, this is our 3x squared. Down at the right is our negative 2. Then our factors go in here. This is a negative 1, and we have to put an x with it. Okay, so don't forget the x here. Then we have a 6, and then the x as well. So what we do is we start with this box here. So what factors to make 3x squared? Well, 3x squared, that is 3x times x. Now we have to think about, where does the 3x go? That's the one that has a coefficient, and so that's the one that's going to affect other things. So we look at across, and then we look down. So here we notice we have a 3x and a 1x. And so 3 wouldn't be good up here because I can't make a 1 unless I have a fraction. I don't want fractions. Now 3 going across this way, that would be the better choice. So on the left side, this is where we're going to put the 3x, and the top we put an x. Double check. 3x times x is 3x squared, and that is true. Then you figure out what else goes in this box to complete it. So we're completing our factors. So 3x times what is 6x? Well, that is 3x times 2. 3x times 2 is 6x. And it's not 2x because that would make it squared, so be careful. Now look at the last box. X times what is negative 1x. And so in this box, that's going to be a negative 1. Now to double check, look at the last box. So does negative 1 times negative 1 times 2 equal negative 2? That is true. So usually when something goes wrong, you'll notice that the last box doesn't work. Then you know you have to move things around. So now our factors are these numbers here on the outside. So we're going to write it. This is 3x minus 1 times x plus 2, and that equals 0. Then you use a zero product property. Set each piece equal to 0 to solve for what x is. So in this case, we add 1 to both sides. And so this is 3x equals 1 divided by 3. And so x equals 1/3 on the side. Then over here, some of you can see it right away. This is just x equals negative 2. Okay, so go ahead and try 14, 15, and 16. All of these require the X box method. If you don't want to use the X box method, there's always a guess and check method that you can also use, but I find that this is a really good method. So whenever you know or you see that there is a coefficient that's not 1, right? So in this case we have 2, then just draw the X, draw the box right away, and that reminds you that you have to do that, okay? So you can't say, for example, for this first one, just going back to it, if you did, for example, and said that this was x minus 1 times x plus 6 is what we did before, notice that x times x is x squared. That is not 3x squared up here. So that's how you know that it is incorrect, is if you just go back and double check and see if it works. And so then you would know that you have to go back and do the X box method. Okay, but again, as a help, I would, as soon as you know that you have a coefficient that's not 1, then draw the X in the box immediately so you know that you have to do it. Okay, hope this helps. Thanks for watching.